Okay, I have the privilege of introducing our speaker today, who's originally from Ottawa Lake, Michigan. I just found out she's actually from Toledo, but moved up to Michigan and grew up there and played baseball as well as softball at Whiteford. And she was an All-American as a player at University of Toledo before moving on to coaching at Bowling Green State University, where she was there for 8 years. About 8 years. She became the winningest coach in BG program history with 237 wins. She's currently the head softball coach at Syracuse University in New York, where the Orange have made 8 consecutive conference tournament appearances under her and won back-to-back Big East Conference titles in 2010 and 2011. Coach Ross has a reputation of being a great recruiter of talent as well as a top motivator in athletics. She's won several conference championships as well as attaining many NCAA tournament berths as a coach. She has a passion for turning her players into leaders. Please welcome Coach Lee Ross.
So, born and raised in Toledo, started playing baseball and football and basketball and everything else in the neighborhood that I could play. In the side yard, how to play, how to be the extra guy with my brother and all his buddies. If I ever quit, I'd get beat up by my brother. Back then, when we were growing up, all the leaders were developed out in that side yard. That's where all our leaders were developed. Who's in charge of the rules today? Who's making teams? Who's going to have a disagreement and how we figure it out? That's how we developed our leaders. Okay? I don't know if I'm speaking generally. I have 2 children. I have a sophomore and an 8th grader. So I'm speaking as a parent. I don't know if you guys can have those same experiences. So you guys were brought up differently, but you're still considered leaders right now. So I guess my job today, what I want to do is, when I was told that I could come here and speak to you guys, I was really excited because I thought, wow, I've always considered a leader, I guess, and I never knew why. I was on varsity as a freshman for all 3 sports, basketball, volleyball, softball. We won 3 state championships in softball. We were state runner-up in basketball. We were state runner-up in volleyball. I was valedictorian. I got a scholarship to play softball at Toledo. I was an All-American and played in the World Series. Right after that, I started coaching. I had no idea why I was a leader. Still, no idea. Didn't even know who I was. And I think right now, for me, it's exciting to know I can come here and speak to me in high school. Because I feel like I can put myself back in those days. And if somebody were to come, I may not know exactly what they were talking about, but I might walk away with something. So that's kind of my goal today, is I want you guys to start looking at what your strengths are. Start looking at yourself. Everybody else thinks that you're a leader. That's why you're here. Why do you think, I guess, maybe think of somebody right now that you think of as a leader, that you respect as a leader. Think of that person. Picture them in your head. Okay? Pick somebody and really think about it. I'm going to give you a second, because sometimes it takes a second. Think of a good leader, somebody that you respect. You don't have to tell me names or who it is, but just throw out there, what are some of the characteristics of that person? Why do you think they're a good leader? You can come on. Mouth full, being polite. No, somebody raise their hand. What's that? Honest. Honest. That's awesome. That's a really good one. Loyal. What's that? Disciplined. Organized. Positive. You've gotten positive every single time. Brave. That's a really good one. Hardworking. You guys know any bad leaders? Yes. Okay. There's bad leaders too, right? So let's talk about, think of that person, that bad leader. I know one, I know a couple. Think about a characteristic that they have and share that. What's a bad leader characteristic? We got a lot of them. What? Unsupportive. Dishonest. Self-centered. That's a really good one. You guys think about it. What are we talking about here with leaders and with these traits. We're talking about things that you're not necessarily born with, but these are skills. These are traits that you can work on. Okay? That's why I want you to start thinking about that, about yourself. What is your strength? Who are you? Why are you a leader? Why are you here? I do a leadership group with my team. I've been at Syracuse for 8 years now. We have been to the regionals, which is in college sports, in Division I, the key is get to postseason. That's the bottom line, okay? We need to get to postseason. We're in the ACC now. Yeah, we want to win an ACC title, but we want to get to postseason because we want to go to the World Series. That's the bottom line. Just like baseball right now, Red Sox, St. Louis, it's all about postseason, okay? So we've been postseason for the last 3 years. Last year we didn't make it. Last year was the only year we didn't make it in the last 4. We win conference titles. We've always been successful. Top 25 team from the Northeast in a sport that's played outside. That's really tough to come by. So I meet with my leaders every week, and we talk about these things. Why do we want to? What do we need to do to be better? Last year we had bad leaders, I say. And I say bad leaders, it doesn't mean they're bad people. It means that they didn't know how to lead. And I take full responsibility for that. And I think as a leader, whoever's following you, they're a reflection of you. Okay, so I know I have to get better. So I'm constantly looking at myself. I'm constantly wondering, how can I be a better leader? What are my strengths? That's what I want you to do today. I want you to start looking at you and your strengths. You all have strengths. You all have something special that you are, that who you are, and you need to find what that is. When I was asked to come here, I thought, gosh, this is cute, like, it's such a big topic, talk forever. And I'm a much better listener than I am a talker. I'd rather have a dialogue. So feel free, even if it's off topic, if you have an experience or something you want to share, feel free to share that with me. But what I want to do is, once I guess as an older coach, you start to understand a little more, like, how to handle teams and how to do better. And I have, over the years, read so many books because I want to be a better person. I want to be a better coach. Read so many books, paid a lot of money to go to leadership academies, done all that. Here, you guys get this opportunity every month to work on your leadership skills for free because you're in school. I think that's really cool that they're giving me this opportunity. So I want to just share some of the things that I pay a lot of money for. I want to share with you, and maybe some of it will stick. Or maybe you'll get to a point in your life where you'll say, I think I might read that book that Coach Ross or Lee Ross was talking about, that one leadership meeting. So the handout that I gave you has some stuff in it, but really, I pull from a lot of different things. I went to a championship leadership academy a few years ago, and it was all sorts of coaches that were there. The Duke women's basketball coach was there, the Michigan softball coach was there, Jeff Jansen, who was he's a team building kind of guy, he was there. John Meyer, who's a basketball coach, Flint State was there. All these people were talking, and everything they said, I already knew. But not because I was smart, but because it's simple. And I think that's kind of the same thing we want to do. It's simple stuff that you know, but when you hear it again, you go, oh yeah. And sometimes you get away from it because you get busy, you get in a predicament, you don't know what to do, so you forget. But just to have those reminders, hey, other people have been through this, it helps. So the bottom line, you can learn who you are as a leader. Number one, as a leader, you have to have your own stuff together. You've got to be able to take care of your stuff before anybody's going to follow you. Okay? And I shared this story earlier. I have a senior on my team, her name's Jasmine. Everybody loves Jasmine. Jasmine is the glue, because everybody loves Jasmine. She's the nicest kid in the world. She's one of our captains. She's a leader. Well, Jasmine is late to everything. How can she be a leader if she's late to everything? We had our first leadership meeting this year. Jasmine missed it. She didn't put it in her phone. She forgot about it. So we go to practice later that day. 2:30 restart. Jasmine shows at 2:30. So here I am going, Jazz, seriously? How can you lead? Are you sure you want to be part of this? And that was the message I asked her. I said, you better make sure that you're ready for this because it's not easy. You cannot be a leader and on this leadership group, if you're going to be late or if you're going to miss these. That just can't happen. So you have to get your stuff together. No one's going to want to follow you if you don't look like you have your act together. Okay, so number one, just get your act together. Be in charge of, control yourself. It's natural for people, it's like human nature, to want to take the easy road. But real leaders are committed. They have an internal motivation. They're committed to whatever they're doing. They lead by example. They are the ones that are going to push forward because it's in here. And I think that's one thing that a leader shows is commitment. They don't need anybody watching over their shoulder. They're kind of competitive. They also are confident. They believe in themselves. They have a solid sense of who they are. They're comfortable with who they are. They're mature mentally and emotionally. They handle failure pretty well. They bounce back. They have composure. It means they're able to manage their emotions, and they have a positive attitude. Talk about that. You guys said it's one of the things that you like about the leader that you respect. They're positive. A leader, composure, they stay calm under pressure, and if there are negative feelings, they hide them pretty well. Because you gotta have this space. You can't let everybody else read you. Okay. And the last thing, as far as who you are as a leader, is character. If you guys ever want to get a book, just read it. John Wooden is my favorite coach ever. Not necessarily, I never really watched UCLA basketball, but the books that he writes are really simple, and they're really good books. John Wooden coached at UCLA. He won 10 NCAA championships in 12 years. You know how hard that is? Be the best team in the country 10 years out of 12 years. They won 88 consecutive games. It's a basketball team. 88 consecutive games. They don't play 88 a year. So that's over the course of seasons. A lot of his stuff that he does, when he teaches his players, used to, he was character-based. It's all about who we are. Now, how are you supposed to know what character is? Because somebody's right might be another person's wrong. So character is really broad. But he does a really good job of kind of putting it in real simple terms. He talks about character. He talks about there's a compass. There's 4 points on a compass. There's 4 things that he kind of always followed growing up. His dad taught him. His dad was a teacher. And the first was the golden rule. Do unto others as you want them to do to you. That's it. Golden rule. You can live by that, by simple. The second was his father taught him 2 sets of 3s. The first set was never lie, never cheat, and never steal. Okay? Pretty simple stuff, right? Again, it's all about being simple here. Never lie, never cheat, never steal. And the other set of 3 was don't whine, don't complain, and don't make excuses. Okay? The third one was don't worry about being better than anybody else, because you can't control that. Just be the best that you can be. And then the last one, his dad would just give 7 things, and I have it on that handout for you guys, 7 things they talked about. But John wouldn't always talk about character, and he talked that way. He was very specific with always these little things. The first day of practice, what he would do, he coached guys like Bill Walton, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, the first day of practice, he'd have all the guys in the locker room, and you're thinking, it's UCLA, it's John Wooden, let's get after it, let's start playing basketball. He'd have them all take their socks and shoes off. And he would teach them how to put their socks on. Put your sock on this way, tie your shoe this way. And the reason he did that is he started right from scratch. Be prepared, because if your socks and shoes are on the right way, you're not going to get blisters, and now we can go have good practice. Bottom line. He's a good teacher. Again, I'm telling you these things because I feel like he's a good example of a leader. And if you ever want to read a good book, John Wood, definitely. Another thing, I think, talking about character, I always go back to books because I feel like they seem so simple and it's like stuff I already know, but gosh, when I read it, it just seems better. It's a book called The 4 Agreements. The bottom line of this book is that you make 4 agreements with yourself. Again, we're talking about who you are as a leader. 4 agreements with yourself. You're going to do these 4 things, and life is going to be easier. You're going to be a whole person. Okay? And the first one is to be truthful, just to tell the truth. How do we get in trouble? Usually. How do we get in messes, predicaments? Little white lies here or there, bending the truth a little bit, trying to get around something. That's where trouble happens. Tell the truth. Just be truthful with your word. And don't use your word in a bad way. No gossiping, no talking about people. Use it in a positive way. Like simpler. The other thing, don't take anything personally. So these 4 agreements. Be truthful. Don't take anything personally. So if somebody has something going on, it's really not about you, it's about them and what they're going through. Don't take it personally. Makes it simpler that way. Number 3 is don't make assumptions. Don't assume that anybody knows how you're feeling or what you expect. Don't assume that. I told this story the last group. I learned every single day something. And last year I learned, I had a junior on my team who was our number 1 pitcher, but she was injured. So she was out. She'd come to practice, but not doing anything because she couldn't do it. She had bicentennitis. So she comes to practice with her shorts and t-shirt on. She's got her sleeves rolled up, and she's sitting on a bucket like this, getting sun. And I was like, what are you doing, Lindsay? You know, she's a princess. She's from Long Island. She's just one of those kids. She's a pitcher. She's kind of a prima donna role, you know. So I was like, oh, that's just Lindsay. But then I thought, wait a minute. Why are you getting suntan when the rest of your team is here practicing? So I said, Lindsay, what are you doing? She's like, oh, I don't know what to do. I've never been off the field. I've always played. What am I supposed to do? And I assumed that she knew. That was wrong with me. So I learned something that day. I thought, wow, well, she wouldn't know. I think I would know better than to get a suntan for practice. But, okay, that's me. But, you know, Lindsay didn't know. I assumed she knew. Okay, my bad. So now I make sure that if I want something specific, that I'm very specific about it. I ask. I have to tell them directly. This is what I need you to do. Hey, you're not practicing, get all the foul balls that go during spring. Go get the foul balls. Okay, coach. No problem. Now we have good communication. Things are good. It's easier. You can't assume. And then the last agreement is to always do your best. If you can just promise yourself that you are doing your best, you are successful. We are taught since you've been born. Parents tell you what you should and shouldn't do. Teachers, bosses, if you were, everybody has these expectations of how you should be. So we start to take those on. And I think bottom line is sometimes you can't live up to what somebody else's expectation is, what they think. You can only do your best. Now your best isn't the same every day. Some days you don't feel so good, some days you feel better. But you can only do your best each day. And if you can truly say, I did my best today, then you're okay, right? So these 4 agreements are simple things. And again, it's just something for you to kind of think about when you're looking at yourself as a leader. Any questions so far? Anybody want to add anything? No? The things we just talked about, the commitment, confidence, composure, and character, those are leading by example. Most of you guys probably are leaders by example because you're here, people think you're a leader, people follow you, you're in a position where people look at you. Okay, so those 4 things are leaders by example. But there's other leaders. There's on top of that, you can be an encourager, which is that leader that builds everybody else up. They serve their people. So you may be one of these. You may be an encourager. You give them confidence. When all hope looks like it's gone, you make sure everybody knows it's going to be okay. You're the encourager. Okay? And then the other one is the enforcer. That's kind of like the leader by example, and then the enforcer is the one that says, hey, I don't care if you like me right now, but this is the right thing and this is what we're doing. And what I found, I guess in my early 20s, hanging out with friends, I never knew why we don't want to do something. No one knew, well, what do you guys want to do? I don't know, what do you want to do? Everybody's talking, seeing what they want to do. And I would say, well, let's go do this. Let's do this, this, and this, and then if we don't like it, then we'll do this. So I remember specifically one day my friend said to me, why don't you do what you want to do? And I said, what do you mean? I don't want to necessarily do that. What do you mean, do what I want to do? It didn't dawn on me until later that I was just listening. I was listening to what everybody else was saying, and I was able to put it all together and say, this is probably the best thing for us to do. So I was the one that stood up and said it. Hey, this is what we're doing. Let's go. We can sit around here and talk, or we can get moving. What do you want to do? So everybody wanted to get moving. And I guess I never understood that until later when I started kind of looking at myself as a leader. Like, wow, I can influence people, I guess. It doesn't mean it's about me and my agenda. That's kind of a bad thing when I'm putting my agenda on them. What it is I can listen. I can listen to what they need and what they want. And I can kind of put it together and say, this is probably our best bet. Let's use all this. I think this is where we're heading, what we want. Let's go do this. So that's something that you might have to do sometimes. It's not being selfish. It's not being self-centered. It's listening and in serving your people. But somebody sometimes has to stand up, right? Take charge. That's what I learned in the side yard. When you're a leader, guys, there's definitely risks. It means everybody's watching you. When I first started meeting with my leadership group, I said that initially, okay, everyone's gonna be looking at you, and they're watching you, and they're all like, really, coach? Yeah, really. That's not that difficult, but it's kind of the curse of being a leader. There's a lot of good things that come from being a leader, but one of them is that everybody watches you. So you gotta make, doesn't mean you have to be perfect, but it does mean that you have to kind of watch how you're acting. And I always tell my players that perception is reality. Those words, perception is reality. So what you are looking at of me right now is what your reality is of me. I may not be doing what you think, I may not look up, that's not, but your reality is whatever you're perceiving is happening. So if you can put yourself, like remind yourself of that, how are they looking at me? How do I look right now? That's the reality of other people. Okay, so you look outside yourself there. That's a big risk. When you're a leader, you're not always going to be liked. Some people may be jealous. You're going to have to deal with conflict. So people aren't getting along. You have to figure it out. Because what type of groups do we have here? I know obviously we've got sports. What else? I know, is there science Olympiad stuff? Science Olympiad? Is there engineering? Or is there another group? Like, what else do we have here? What, student government? We got student government here? So you guys have, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're an athlete or if it's student government, like we're all in teams. That's life. We deal with people every day. That's what we are. We're human. So we deal with people. So leading is just dealing with people. Okay? And I think right now, again, meeting with my leadership group, I think something that's difficult for you guys is that you don't have as much human interaction as I did growing up. We had to do everything face to face. We had to pick up the phone and make a phone call and go through the whole, hello, how are you? I'm good, how are you? Hey, do you want to hang out? Like that whole thing where you guys could just send a text, 2 words, want to hang, whatever. So you guys aren't used, or you don't have as many opportunities, I think, to have that human interaction. And I think that's tough for you guys. That's something to think about. It's like, if you want to lead others, you got to get what they're about. You got to understand human nature. You got to watch them. I'm a big watch. I love watching people. I love trying to figure out like their story. I like trying to figure out what motivates that person. That's who I am. Like, I would much rather be over there listening than up here speaking to you guys. I would rather this be a dialogue because that's how I function. I don't ever want to come off preachy or like I'm telling you guys, hey, do this, do this, do this. But it's just as a leader, that's the kind of leader I am. I watch. And I think that's something that you guys can do. Watch people. Learn what makes them tick. Figure it out. And then you can motivate them to kind of help the team by knowing what makes them tick. But with all the technology that you guys have, you don't really have as much one-on-one interaction or human interaction. So that's tough. Always keep that in mind. I think the last thing that I want to talk about are the mentality. This was just last week, I was meeting with my leadership group. And there's a spectrum in this leadership manual that we're going through. You try to decide where everybody fits on this spectrum in your team. Like, are they committed? Are they kind of resilient? Are they going along with it? You have to push them. You try to. So we're talking about everybody on our team, and in a good way. You know, where do they fall on this spectrum? Resilient, don't want to really follow, or compelled, ready to get after it. So I asked my leaders, where do you guys stand? There's committed. On the right side, there's committed and there's compelled. And they all said, well, we're committed. We have a good work ethic, coach. We're gonna do what it takes. We're committed. What compelled was they're gonna go the extra mile. They're gonna push. They're gonna overcome obstacles to get something done. And I said, you're committed but not compelled. Why is that? And you're like, I don't know. Because we feel like compelled is like not balanced, like that's crazy. And I said, that's crazy, but it dawned on me that when you guys are growing up, and right now, in your youth, we have a different mentality than when I was younger. And I guess I didn't understand this. Our mentality when we were younger was, I want to be the best. I want to be the best, period. I'm going to beat everyone around me. I'm all competitive. Like, that's what we did. Where you guys kind of grew up, where things were planned for you. And sometimes it's fair. Everything's fair. You know, and I think when you're a leader, you have to understand that it's not always fair. It's whose strengths are better suited for what. So my players didn't understand that we weren't all equal. Sounds bad, but in the right way. We all have different strengths, and we need to make sure that we use our strengths. You know, you're gonna stand up. You're gonna be separate. You're gonna have to be compelled. You might look like you're trying a little harder than the next one. That's okay. It's not about just participating here. This is about being a leader. And I think that they didn't quite understand that compelled doesn't mean I'm crazy off the deep end. Compelled means I just really feel strongly about this, and I think this is my strength, and I want to get us going in that direction. Let's go. So I think once we kind of figure that out, they understood. It's okay. It's okay to stand up. So have you guys faced those kind of moments where you have to stand up and be on your own? Yeah. It's tough. It is. But when you have that confidence in yourself and you know, hey, this is probably the right thing to do, then you can at least stand by that. Before I finish, does anybody have, because last session, somebody had a scenario that they needed help with. And they didn't ask me until after, but I'd like to share. If anybody has anything right now that they want to share or that they would need, you guys don't talk. I was told that you wouldn't talk. Any questions in general about Syracuse? No? How we have the best basketball team in the world? No? You know, I didn't know who Jim Boeheim was when I went there. And then I figured it out when I got there. Yeah. Yes. He's the nicest guy. I don't know. He's a really nice guy. He came into my office and asked me, this is my first year, asked how I was doing, things okay? And I was like, yeah, we're even like, I didn't know. Yeah. Then I figured it out. Great guy. Anything else? Thank you so much for having me. I hope I didn't sound preachy, but I hope that you can use some of this information later. Thanks.